Welcome to What the F Happened, Fraud and Financial Crime Deconstructed, a Defend podcast where we break down what's actually happening across fraud, scams, AML, and financial crime.
Each episode cuts through the noise to explain the tactics, trends, and real-world impact behind the headlines, so you're better prepared for what comes next. Let's get into it. Check your calendars. Seriously, take a second right now and look at the date. But if you work in finance, specifically in payments or compliance, today is the 1-month warning.
It really is the final countdown.
Because exactly 1 month from today, on March 20, 2026, the underlying plumbing of the whole U.S. financial system undergoes what might be its biggest renovation in decades.
And if banks aren't ready, the consequences are going to get very real, very fast.
It sounds super dramatic when we say it like that, but you aren't wrong. We're talking about the 2026 Nacha Operating Rules.
Which I know sounds incredibly dry.
It sounds like a PDF you just delete without reading. Operating rules, like instructions for a microwave or something.
It usually is.
Huh.
But this time is different.
That's exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. We've been pulling apart this comprehensive guide published by DataVisor, along with the official updates from Nacha's own headquarters.
Right.
We're looking at why the people running the ACH network, this massive system moving trillions of dollars, are suddenly telling banks to stop acting like mailboxes and start acting like bodyguards.
It's a perfect analogy. For 50 years, the bank's main job was just to move money from point A to point B.
Right.
Now, they actually have to decide if moving that money is a terrible mistake.
So our mission for this deep dive is pretty simple. We need to figure out what actually happens on March 20th. We need to unpack this concept of credit push fraud that everyone in the industry is whispering about. And maybe most importantly, we have to ask ourselves, are we really ready for our banks to start acting like our parents?
It's a really messy question, but we definitely have to answer it.
Let's start with the crime itself then. Because when I hear the word fraud, I have a very specific image in my head.
The guy in the hoodie.
Yeah, exactly. The hacker in a dark room, typing furiously. They steal my password, they log in at 3 a.m., and they just drain my savings account while I'm asleep. I mean, that's fraud, right?
It is fraud, absolutely. In the industry, we call that unauthorized fraud. It's a literal break-in.
Someone picked the lock.
Right. Someone picked the lock. And for the last 30 years or so, the entire banking security apparatus was built to stop exactly that.
Firewalls, two-factor authentication, device fingerprinting.
All of it. It was castle defense. Just keep the bad guys out. Keep the gate locked.
But looking through this DataVisor guide, it seems like the castle walls actually held up fine, but the bad guys just completely changed their tactics.
Yep. They realized the walls were just too high. So instead of trying to break in, they just ask you to lower the drawbridge for them.
And this brings us to the credit push concept. Let's make sure we really nail this definition because it's the root of everything that changes next month.
Think about the difference between a pull and a push.
Okay.
A debit pull is like your gym membership taking money out of your account every month.
Yeah.
You authorized it once, and they pull the funds.
Right.
A credit push is like a wire transfer or a Venmo payment or Zelle. You are actively sending the money out.
So I'm the one initiating it.
Exactly. And these 2026 rules are a tectonic shift because they specifically address scenarios where that push transaction is technically authorized.
Authorized by me.
Yes. You logged in,
Yeah.
you passed the Face ID check, you typed in the account number yourself, and you hit send.
Because I thought I was paying a legitimate vendor. Or maybe investing in this guaranteed crypto return.
Or helping a romantic partner who is magically stuck at customs overseas.
All the classic scams. So business email compromise, BEC, is a massive driver here.
Huge driver. That's the scenario where a CFO gets an email that looks exactly like it's from the CEO saying wire $50,000 to this new vendor immediately.
And they just do it.
They do it. Vendor impersonation, payroll diversion. The Nacha updates list all of these explicitly.
Wow.
The bank system sees you logging in and says, great, this is the legitimate user. It processes the payment. But in reality, you've been socially engineered.
That phrase, socially engineered, always gives me the creeps. It implies my brain was hacked, not my computer.
But that is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
The fraudster hacked your trust, not your firewall.
So before these new rules, if I got scammed like that, could the bank just shrug and say, hey, you click the button, it's not our problem?
Historically, yes, absolutely. That was the standard defense. The customer authorized it.
Wow.
The ACH network rules were heavily focused on unauthorized debits. If you pushed the money out yourself, that was on you. You made the mistake.
But this new framework totally flips that table.
It does. It basically says just because the customer authorized it doesn't mean you can ignore the fact that the transaction looks incredibly suspicious.
That is a massive pivot. It feels like the bank is moving from being a security guard to being like a chaperone.
I'd call it being an active risk manager. And there's a really important nuance here that DataVisor highlights. The industry calls this fraud induced by false pretenses.
Meaning I was lied to.
Correct. But here's the kicker. Nacha didn't actually create a new legal category for false pretenses. They didn't rewrite U.S. law.
What did they do then?
They just expanded the definition of suspicious activity. They're telling banks, you can't just check the password anymore. You have to check the context. You have to look at the behavior.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second. If I want to send all my money to a prince in Nigeria, because I genuinely believe him, does the bank actually have the right to stop me? I mean, it's my money.
That is the exact tension at the heart of this. And we'll get to the friction it causes later, because customers do get furious when you save them from themselves. But from Nacha's perspective, the answer is now yes. If the pattern matches a known fraud typology like a Mule account, the bank has a duty to intervene.
You just mentioned Mule accounts. And I think this leads us to what is probably the single biggest operational change in all these documents. We need to talk about the RDFI.
The Receiving Depository Financial Institution.
Right. The bank where the money actually lands.
This is the real aha moment of the 2026 rules.
Break it down for me. Why is the receiving bank suddenly in the hot seat? Usually if I'm sending money to a scammer, the sending bank is the one worrying about losing the cash.
True. The originating bank, the ODFI, has always had liability. But think about the actual mechanics of a scam.
Okay.
If you were being tricked, your behavior might actually look totally normal to your bank. You send money to contractors. You send money to friends.
So my bank doesn't see a red flag because I send wires all the time.
Right. But the scammer, the account receiving the money, that account looks insane.
Insane how? Paint the picture for us.
Imagine a brand new account. It was opened 3 days ago online. Suddenly, in a span of 4 hours, it receives 50 separate transfer payments from 50 different people all across the country.
That's a money mule.
Exactly. Criminals need a way to get money out of the U.S. banking system. They recruit these intermediaries, mules, to receive the stolen funds and then immediately wire them offshore or buy crypto.
Got it.
And the receiving bank is the only one who can see that massive accumulation of funds.
So under the old rules, the receiving bank was just a mailbox. Does the account number match?
No.
Yes. Cool. Post the money.
They were completely passive. They were just the net. Now, Nacha says they have to be the goalie.
The DataVisor guide uses this phrase, lifecycle responsibility, which sounds like corporate speak, but what does it actually mean for a bank manager on the ground?
It means you own the risk from the moment the account is opened until the day it closes.
Okay.
Let's say you have an old savings account you haven't touched in 5 years. It's totally dormant. Suddenly it wakes up and receives a $50,000 payroll deposit from a company you've never worked for.
That's a blazing red flag.
It is. And under the 2026 rules, the RDFI is required to have risk-based fraud monitoring to catch exactly that scenario.
They have to ask if the inbound payment makes sense for that specific customer's history.
Exactly.
This sounds incredibly expensive for the banks.
Oh, it is. And it's difficult. Monitoring outbound money is somewhat easier because you know your customer. Monitoring inbound money, you're judging transactions coming from complete strangers.
But if they succeed, if they shut down the Mule accounts,
Then the whole scam falls apart.
Yeah.
If criminals can't receive the money, there's no point in stealing it. You choke off their liquidity.
Okay, so we know who has to watch the receiver. But how? How does a computer know that my payment to Generic Construction LLC is actually a scam without calling me and asking?
It all comes down to data hygiene. And this is where the new rules get very specific about the toolkit banks have to use. You simply can't spot a pattern if your data is messy.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Precisely. One of the specific mandates involves the company entry description field. It's that little text blurb you see on your bank statement.
Right, the memo line, basically.
Nacha is now mandating the strict usage of specific labels, like payroll and purchase.
Wait, strictly payroll, like all caps, spelled exactly like that.
Yes, if a payment is for wages or salary, it absolutely must use the standard payroll descriptor.
Why does that matter so much? It's just a label.
Because it allows for automated anomaly detection. Let's go back to your Mule account example. If I have an account categorized as personal checking, And suddenly I receive 5 different incoming payments labeled payroll from 5 different companies in a single week,
Then you either have 5 full-time jobs,
which is pretty unlikely.
or you are acting as a money mule, collecting payroll diversions from hacked employee accounts.
Exactly. By standardizing the label, the computer can instantly flag that equation. Personal account plus multiple payroll origins equals high risk.
That makes a ton of sense. Before, if the label was just XFR or FUNZS or MISI, the computer couldn't actually tell it was a salary payment.
Right. And purchase is the other big one. This applies to e-commerce debits.
So if an account that usually only receives Social Security benefits suddenly gets hit with a purchase debit for high-end electronics?
The algorithm wakes up.
But what's the catch? Because there's always a catch with these legacy systems.
The problem is integration. The DataVisor guide highlights this as a major hurdle. Banks have their data in silos. The team that handles wire transfers might not even talk to the team that handles ACH.
And neither of them talks to the branch that opened the account 5 years ago.
Exactly. To comply with this mandate, banks need a holistic view. They need to connect the dots in real time. The ACH system needs to query the account history database instantly.
Real time is a very scary word in banking. It usually means expensive and highly prone to breaking.
It is, but it's necessary now, because we live in a world of same-day ACH.
Let's talk about that tension, because as consumers, we want everything faster. I want to pay my credit card bill today. I want my paycheck available immediately.
It's the eternal struggle, the need for speed versus the need for safety.
Right. If the money is moving in 2 hours, you don't have a human analyst sitting there sipping coffee, leisurely looking at spreadsheets to spot a scam.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Manual review is completely dead in this new world. The DataVisor guide is very clear on this. Compliance requires automated, risk-based logic. The machine has to decide, and it has to decide in milliseconds.
And that scares me a little, because what happens when the machine is wrong?
That brings us to the customer friction problem.
Right. Imagine I'm trying to send money to my contractor for a legitimate kitchen renovation. It's a lot of money. It's a new payee. So the AI looks at it and says, nope, looks like a scam.
And the payment gets blocked.
Yeah.
So you get angry, you call the bank, you wait on hold, and you yell at a representative. You say, it's my money, let me send it.
I would be furious. I mean, my kitchen is half finished.
This is the exact tightrope these banks are walking starting next month.
Yeah.
If they stop too many legitimate payments, customers leave because the bank is perceived as broken or too difficult to use.
But if they let too much fraud through?
They violate the Nacha rules and get hit with fines.
Speaking of starting next month, let's clarify this deadline. We said March 20, 2026. Is that for every single bank or just the big guys?
Nacha is smart. They did a phased rollout for this. Phase 1, which hits on March 20th, applies strictly to large volume institutions.
What's the cutoff for large volume?
If you originated more than 6 million entries or received more than 10 million entries in 2023.
Okay.
Basically, if you are a big bank or a major credit union, your deadline is exactly 1 month away.
And for the smaller community banks, the local credit unions down the state?
They fall into Phase 2, June 19, 2026.
So they have a few more months to panic.
A few more months to get their house in order, yes. But the key thing to remember is there is no grace period.
Not at all.
None. Nacha expects compliance on day 1. And this also applies to third-party senders.
The fintechs.
Yes. If you are a payroll processor or some shiny new neobank app that rides on the ACH rails, you are on the hook just as much as the old-school legacy banks.
So let me play the cynic here. What if a bank just doesn't do it? What if they look at the cost of upgrading their systems and say, this is too expensive, we're just going to keep doing what we've always done? Is Nacha the police? Can they arrest a bank manager?
Nacha is definitely not the police. They aren't a government regulator like the Federal Reserve or the CFPB. They are a private rulemaking body.
So they have no teeth?
Oh, they have teeth. But they aren't legal teeth, they are contractual teeth.
Explain how that works.
Participation in the ACH network is technically voluntary. You agree to follow the rules so you can play the game. If you don't follow the rules, Nacha can audit you. They can investigate.
And then what?
They can levy Class 3 rules violations, which carry some very significant financial penalties.
Okay, fines are bad. But big banks pay fines all the time. It's practically a line item in their annual budget.
True. But the nuclear option is restricting access to the network.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. In extreme cases, if a participant is threatening the actual integrity of the network, say, by letting a massive amount of fraud flow through unchecked lay, they can be restricted.
Imagine a bank that literally cannot process direct deposits or pay bills electronically.
That's a death sentence. It's an extinction event for a modern bank. So while Nacha isn't the police, they are the landlord, and they can evict you.
That really puts it in perspective. This isn't a friendly suggestion from an industry group. It's a requirement for survival.
And it really aligns with the global trend we are seeing. If we look at the big picture, the UK has been doing this with their confirmation of payee system. Other countries are enforcing similar liability shifts.
So the U.S. is just playing catch-up.
Exactly. We are finally moving from a reactive model where we just try to clean up the mess after the money has already gone to a proactive model.
Proactive sounds great on paper, identifying the risk before the money moves. But I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier about the false pretenses.
Sure, go ahead.
We are building a system where the bank actively monitors for intent. They are trying to figure out if you, the customer, are being tricked.
Right. That's the ultimate goal of the behavioral analytics.
So here's the thought I want to leave everyone with as we wrap up this deep dive. And it's a bit uncomfortable.
Let's hear it.
If you woke up tomorrow and willingly sent money to a scammer because you truly deeply believed in the lie they told you, would you actually want your bank to stop you?
I think most people would immediately say yes. Protect me. Protect my life savings.
In theory, sure. But imagine being in that moment. You are completely convinced, you think you are in love, or you think you've just found the real estate investment of a lifetime. You are excited to send this wire, and the bank just says no. They treat you like a child who can't be trusted with their own allowance.
It is incredibly paternalistic.
It is. Are we ready for a banking relationship that feels less like a service provider and more like a parent-child dynamic? Because looking at these 2026 rules, that is effectively what we are building. A safety net that, in the heat of the moment, might feel a lot like a cage.
It's true. Security always comes at the cost of liberty. We are just trying to find where the new balance point is in a digital world.
Indeed we are. And for the compliance officers listening to this, staring at that March 20th date on the calendar right now, good luck. You're really going to need it.
Get those algorithms ready.
You've been listening to What the F Happened? Fraud and Financial Crime Deconstructed, a Defend podcast by DataVisor.
If you want to keep learning between episodes, check out Defend Training.
It's a set of self-paced online courses for fraud and financial crime professionals, practical and built around real-world scenarios.
And you can earn CPE credits through the ACFE San Francisco Bay Area chapter.
You can find it at datavisor.com Defend Training. The link's in the description.
This episode's audio was generated using Google's Notebook LM based on expert analysis and trusted sources. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.